Since I have all of these AV receivers hanging out here, I figured why not put them against one another. We have the Sony 3000 ES, the Denon X6700H, the Onkyo RZ30, and the Yamaha A8A. I'm running a 5.1.4 Dolby Atmos setup in the bedroom, and it's a per listen front stage with an ELAC subwoofer and monolith monoprice satellites for the surrounds and the heights. It's not a perfect system, and it's not in a perfect location either. It's an untreated room and all that. And I still do have those amplifiers, but we're not going to use the amplifiers. All the speakers are going to be run off the internal amplifiers of the receivers themselves. So I started off by wanting to calibrate with all of the internal calibration methods that are found in these AVRs stock. However, the Sony was giving me so many problems, I kept getting errors, and it took a whole day, and it sucked. So I figured might as well just run a manual calibration on all of them. That way, it'd be more of an even playing field. Because I know if I were to just run the Onkyo with Dirac Live, it'll probably beat the pants off of Odyssey, YPow, and whatever Sony's having. So to make this more of a fair fight, I figured why not do a manual calibration. So I'm going to calibrate each AVR first, and then I'm going to play content on one of them, swap it out, play the same content, swap it out, play the same content, and I have judging criteria to judge different aspects of the experience. So the first thing I did was for each speaker, I got the distances. That was the first thing. So for distances, I've got this laser measure, and I'm going to use this to get the distance from the main listening position and all of the speakers. And from there, I used those distances and input them into each AVR. So all the distances are all exactly the same. As far as crossovers are concerned, so 80 Hertz crossover on all the speakers. We're just gonna do that standardized so that everything else is fair and equal. Then I went into the level matching section of the Spatial Audio Calibration Toolkit.
Front height left.
I'm going to be using UMic 1. I'm going to use it in the 90-degree position. I do have a 90-degree calibration file that was loaded into REW. If you want to know how to manually calibrate your home theater, you should definitely check this out. This was an invaluable tool to get this done. We also have a sale on that right now, so I'll tell you about that in a minute. 75 on all the ear level speakers and the height channels. And I'm not a fan of running the subwoofer 10-degree hot, meaning 85, because that's way too violent. So we're gonna do 82, making sure the master volume is at -10 and make sure all the internal YPow and all that is off. So the Yamaha's done. I did the Sony last night, so I got the Denon and the Onkyo to go. So let's toss the Denon in right now.
A few moments later.
Okay. We got the Denon set up and ready to go. Now we gotta swap it out and do the same thing with the Onkyo. And right now I'm wondering, why the hell did I decide to do this? Oh yeah, that's right. For you. Well, and for me too. I wanna find out. Ha!
2,000 years later.
Now it's taken quite a bit of time to get the AVRs all calibrated up. So now all I gotta do is swap them. And now the fun part, I'm going to evaluate. And here is what I'm going to evaluate. And so our testing criteria is bass, impacts, and dynamics. Follow the House of Usher is episode 1, 50-minute mark, the church scene into when dude falls on the ground, he's looking at the raven. 300 is the first 5 minutes, I believe. Dune, it's the first attack, first 5 minutes as well. Dialogue clarity, that's Free Guy, that's the first 5-ish minutes. Object placement accuracy. Torture test object placement, that's going to be the up and over on the Spatial Audio Calibration Toolkit. Musical immersion, and those are going to be 2 of my Atmos mixes. One is Echoes, my original track, and one is I Like Me Better by Love. Atmos handling in complex scenes, that is going to be midway. It's the first attack on Pearl Harbor. It's about 9 minutes into the movie. Overhead precision, and then overhead precision, I love the Audiosphere Dolby demo, so that's what I used there. Now, the fun part, watching the content. Let's go.
One eternity later.
All right, here we are with the scores. Now, if you notice in the first round bass impact and dynamics, there are 3 scores because there's 3 different clips. As you can see, the Sony didn't do too well. And I think one of the issues with the Sony is that it really couldn't keep up with these speakers as far as powering them properly. I don't know. It was just underwhelming. And the bass, even though it is, you know, subwoofer, was also not as good as the Onkyos. The Yamaha and Sony were kind of on par. The Denon kind of edged out the Onkyo just a little bit. I was very surprised with the Onkyo though. For some reason, like the Denon just has way more power. And I know if I were to use Odyssey, like that wouldn't have been there. That wouldn't have been the case, right? So, you know, manual calibration. 300, a fantastic scene. He goes out in the wild. The Onkyo RZ30 really did edge out the Denon. And oddly enough, the Yamaha came through. It was a lot louder for that movie. I don't know what the difference was. Maybe it was going from streaming because House of Usher was on Netflix. Maybe streaming had to do with it. I don't know. Sony came in a little behind. As far as Dune, I felt like the Onkyo and the Sony did the same level of dynamics and bass, that impact. Then the Denon and the Yamaha just edged them out, but they seemed very on par with each other. Dialogue clarity for Free Guy, it looks like the Denon and the Onkyo were better in that aspect. It was easier to hear Ryan Reynolds do his narration, and then I felt like the Onkyo and the Denon did better than the Sony and the Yamaha, just by a little bit. As far as object placement accuracy, if you noticed, all of these are 7s. And I think this has to be based, this is all basically because the setup in that room isn't the greatest. You know, using the torture test section on the Spatial Audio Calibration Toolkit, I used the up and over. Issue with the setup is that the front heights are aiming toward me, but the rear heights are up above me aiming down in this direction. So when you have, you know, it's supposed to make phantom image. The problem is one speaker is pointing one way and the other speaker is pointing another way. So it can't make that phantom image as it can here because the speakers are pointed at each other. One, in my case at home, one's pointed this way, one's pointed this way. So it's not going to make that phantom image. They all kind of did the same exact thing. It was okay. Musical immersion, Echoes is the first one. They all pretty much got it, right? I didn't notice a difference in a less or more of the immersion from my track Echoes when I played it on each of them. With Lauv, there was something missing from the Sony. There was just a little bit of something missing, and I couldn't really put my finger on it. It was equal on the Onkyo, Denon, Yamaha, but there was just something lacking in Sony's presentation of that Atmos mix. Now, if you want those Atmos mixes, I will put them down in the description box, hopefully, if I remember. If not, just ask me in the comments. Now, getting into the midway attack, I felt like the Sony and the Onkyo were pretty on par, and the Denon and Yamaha definitely raised the bar. And I think like there was this one part that the Yamaha, I was pretty surprised about the Yamaha. It was just so loud. I had to turn it down on the Yamaha, and the Denon did it with more poise, I suppose, is the best way to put it. It was more refined. That's the reasoning for the scores there. As far as the overhead precision, everything was pretty much on par, except for the Sony. I'm not really too thrilled with the Sony. Like the Onkyo is $1,300, the Sony $1,600, the Denon, this one, I mean, was $2,200. I think it's an older model. The Yamaha A8A was like $3,000 brand new. Now, something you guys might notice here is that none of these ever got a 10 in any of the categories. And there's a reason for that, because I've actually heard the Denon and the Yamaha get 10s. That extra bit of performance can be achieved by the Denon, the Yamaha, and the Onkyo as well, because I've done it with that as well. And that is getting a custom target curve for that room. You see, that's the thing that's going to actually kind of bring everything together, right? And what I'm talking about is Magic Beans and the Spatial Audio Calibration Toolkit. Those two combined really do give you that extra 30% of performance. And don't take it from me. Jason said, buy the Spatial Audio Calibration Toolkit and Magic Beans TrueTarget and save yourself thousands, because I'm proof of both. That they both transformed my somewhat budgeted home theater to a great sounding home theater. Just bought, and damn, seriously love the difference it has made. Much love and sincere thank you. It made my system work 100% better. Thank you guys for all the work you put into it. Right now we're having a Father's Day sale on both the Spatial Audio Calibration Toolkit and Magic Beans. So make sure you go to spatialcd.com and magicbeansaudio.com and pick yours up today. It's going to get you that custom target curve for your room, balance out your system, and give you a better home theater experience. A few other things I want to mention about these receivers. When you do something like a calibration manually, you'll have to be going back and forth between menus, going to the Blu-ray player, going back into the menu, doing this and doing that. And out of these four, I think the Yamaha was the easiest to kind of adjust all of the levels and everything like that. Followed that by the Denon, then Onkyo, and then Sony. Sony was like the most button presses to get back to the level section. The Onkyo, it was like a delay. If you can use the web UI for the Onkyo, it's probably going to be a lot faster. But I was quite surprised at the Yamaha being the winner, for me at least, in that aspect. The Sony, I don't know if it's just something wrong with the unit I have. It was just giving me all kinds of problems when trying to run their room correction. So, man, I don't really like that thing. Another issue the Sony had, when I'm running the Revolution player and I put volume up on the Sony, it would start fast forwarding. I put volume down, it would start rewinding. Like, it was controlling the scan seek function on the player. I didn't even like try to program the remote to control that device. It just randomly started happening. So that was actually super annoying. So with that being said, adding up all the scores here, we have the Sony coming in at 45.3, the Onkyo and the Yamaha tied at 48.8, and the Denon coming out on top with 50.16 or 50.2, if you want to call it that. This was actually kind of cool. Let me know if you guys want to do something more like this. It did take quite a long time. If you liked it, let me know in the comments. If you have any questions, concerns, some ways to make this kind of thing better, you have some better criteria for me to judge, hey, let me know. I'm all about it. Let's do some more of these things. Let's do some more comparos. Maybe I'll do some binaural recordings next time. Whatever the case is, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you pick up Spatial Audio Calibration Toolkit and Magic Beans on sale right now for Father's Day. And let me know what you think in the comments. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.